Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Online dating. I met this girl online. Online dating. I met this girl online. Clicked and fell into this.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Larry Yates Show. This is your boy Larry in the house. I'm so glad to be back here. There was a little technical difficulties and stuff. I wished I could take responsibility for the show starting just a few minutes late, but I'm so happy to blame it on everybody else but me. Everybody is at fault but me. And thank you for being here today. Today's is going to be kind of I think it's going to be an exciting show today, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. I know we normally start out with all of the politics, and we can't help but to mention politics with what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country today. And I think today with the show we've put together, it's going to fit in there. Because one of the things we see in the politics as it is today, it is so much disdain for diversity. And I thought at this point in my life that we would be more conscious of each other, more tolerance. And you know something, in some ways, the word tolerance is kind of, we use it, but why should I say you have to tolerate me? I have to tolerate someone from the LGBT community or tolerate someone because they're Hispanic. But for the lack of better term and because this is the language that we're using in today's market, I'll go and play with that for now. But I think with the direction that we're going in the country and the division that we are suffering from, and it seems to be this vast ocean of the lack of consciousness and support and love for each other. And I'm not a kiss moo moo, huggy poo poo kind of person. But what I want to do, today we're going to review a book. And let me tell you something. I am dyslexic. So I don't read a lot of books through. I'll thumb through. And I read articles and reports and I do a lot of lectures. Watch a lot of lectures and stuff like that. So it's pretty hard for someone like myself to be dyslexic and to find a book that really captures my heart, that really kind of locks me in, that I can't put it down. And that's saying a lot for Yates. I mean, me telling somebody, oh, I got a book that it's hard for me to put down because, once again, I don't want to drive it in the ground here, but when you're dyslexic like I am, you tend to get bored with things very quick because you're struggling with putting letters and numbers and stuff together. But then every now and again, a story comes along that just touches your heart. And this book is one of the best books that I've read. And sure, I'm biased. I know the author, okay? But this is a book called Finding Roger. And Roger Rees, those of you that are familiar with theater, and was very, very powerful in Broadway and theater. And Rick Ellis. Okay, Rick, don't jump on me. I mispronounced the last name there for a minute. But Rick Ellis, his partner. And I met Roger and Rick a couple of years ago through my good friend, a partner of friendship with Elaine. And so I got to meet Rick and Roger, and this is why it's so significant to me. I grew up in a generation that it was hard to address homosexuality and just call it what it is. And the reason I'm stumbling is not because I don't have the words. I'm stumbling because there's a little bit of me that is ashamed of how I grew up and how I was programmed to look at gay and lesbian relationships. And so, quite naturally, as you can see, I've grown through this, but I still have to look at how I was and the consciousness that I grew up in, the environment. And I tell everybody, anytime you want to get to know a person, learn 3 things about any human being and you can pinpoint some of the behavior. If you learn about a person's environment that they grew up in, their culture, and their religion. And many of us, all of us are conditioned to some point by these 3 things: environment, religion, and culture. In the religion and the environment that I grew up in, we frowned upon gay and lesbian relationships. And we frowned upon because many of us, like myself, were so programmed that I didn't understand. And so then I'm thinking now I'm reading this book about 2 of the most beautiful spirits that I've ever met. And when I start to read the book, Finding Roger, there it is, I'm holding up. Oh yeah, by the way, let me say this. I got it here somewhere, hold on there. So those of you that's gonna get jealous, Rick Ellis autographed it for me. Ah! But anyway, when I start to read this book, I got so lost in it that I didn't see a gay relationship. I just saw 2 people that truly, truly loved and adored each other. And I was so blown away with the struggles, with the challenges that they faced in this book, Rick and Roger, that I called some very, very good friends to say to them, look, would you join me in doing the book review on Finding Roger? And I got so lucky I got the very 2 people that I wanted to be here with me. And I'm stumbling now a little bit because I'm really excited about, I want to hear what they were saying. And I want you guys to welcome, started Philippa. See, I'm from Mississippi. I'm always messing up her name, but she forgives me for it.
All the time.
All the time. Thank you for coming so much. And we have Sydney. Hi, Sydney. Now, Sydney, last time I saw Sydney, she was about 14. And she's this prolific writer. She's just a writer from the spirit, from the heart. And I told her, I said, you know what? One day I'm going to have you on this show, and we're going to be talking about writing. And thank both you guys for coming on the show and sharing with me the joy of reading this book called Finding Roger. So tell me, where should we start with this?
Well, I'll tell you, the one thing that you've just said about how you were brought up and your kind of resistance to accepting gay relationships. Growing up in South Africa, my mother is an actress, so I always grew up around gays and lesbians, so that was never an issue. But one of the things that struck me now while you were talking, it never ever occurred to me to want to have a relationship, or that gay people could be an example of what I would really want in a relationship. I only got that reading this book. That the love and respect and the care and the kindness that they have towards each other is something I've never ever read of any heterosexual relationship. And that's what I would aspire to have.
Yeah, and you were saying something similar to. Go ahead.
I did tell you before we were on air that if I one day could just find a fraction of the love that they have, I will be complete. Like reading this book and Rick allowing us to kind of see into their love story. I was smiling from ear to ear. I was reading it in the car to my mom while I was reading it, and she was laughing. First of all, he is such a great writer. Like the certain things that he would be talking about that one, a regular person talking about it on any regular day, it wouldn't sound as, entertaining and captivating. His language, his nuance, his just everything is hilarious, beautiful, tear-jerking, just everything about the love that he had for this man. Just it's enough to make anybody want to hug the nearest person next to you, because it's what I found reading this book is that I completely agree with you, is that I've never really had a perfect example of what being in love is supposed to look like and being in a relationship is supposed to look like. And I think this relationship is the prime example of loving someone for what you can do for them, not what they can do for you.
Yeah.
And I just think that it's just amazing. It's just amazing that I now have a point of reference for anybody that, may be a little reluctant to accept gay marriage or lesbian couples, or just even simply talking about it, because that is still something that is hard for some people. So, and I don't know if you know this, but I myself am bisexual. So reading this book from not only the perspective of a reader who is I'm a hopeless romantic, and a reader that, has gone through, the trials and tribulations that can come with being a part of the LGBT community, it was just so refreshing to see love for what it is.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you at 18.
Yes, 19.
19.
About to be 19, but
I
I gotta add
19
that.
in a few days.
Gotta add that.
But you're saying that you, even at your age, you have experienced some of the challenges of being, whether it's gay or lesbian or bisexual.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and not even just in terms of romance, just in terms of trusting another human being with who you are. It's very difficult sometimes to give parts of yourself, because growing up in a world where not everybody is okay with who you are, you become cautious and your shell hardens. And reading this book, it just allowed me to see what happens when you let your wall down for the perfect person. And that is something that can translate to any relationship, to any friendship, to any, situation in which you're questioning, can I give myself to this person and trust them? And I think that transcends any gender, any sexual orientation.
I appreciate you sharing. Did you want to say something to that?
There were
Philippa?
two things that you said which were absolutely correct. The second book that I co-wrote with my ex-therapist was on affairs and cheating and lying and betrayal. And one of the things why relationships fail is because we always go into relationships thinking, what can we get out of it? What can we get? Never about what can we give. Right. And that's what was so magnificent about this relationship with these two men. Nothing was about getting, because giving is getting. To give is to receive. You can't get better than that. And the other point that you made was about trust and letting your walls down. And it's amazing that you actually asked me to do this interview now, because I've just recently met somebody after not dating for 9 years. And the biggest thing for me is the trust issue. And it's not about, it's about only revealing yourself and being vulnerable when you know that you can trust that person. And these two instinctively knew that they could trust each other from the first time they met. They tell that story about how, Rick was waiting for him and sending him all these letters. And he only found out, I don't know how long afterwards, that Roger was actually keeping those letters and storing them. So they both had this connection, and neither of them knew, which was just amazing.
Just so beautiful.
Beautiful.
And the fact that I think the most adorable part of this entire love story was that Rick was obsessed with Roger before Roger even knew who
Yeah, he
was
had
in
made a
person.
shrine towards
Right.
him.
And I think that is so, for that to be the person that you're destined to be with.
Beautiful.
And it just starts off as just a sheer admiration for who he is as a person and as an entertainer and as somebody that you admire and respect.
Yeah,
It's
what
it's
I
so
like
cool.
about that statement is that when I read the book, it's like, and just a few minutes ago off the air, just before you came, we were talking about decision making and being sure about what you want. And I love the fact that Rick had struggles of his own coming out, but he knew what he wanted in a relationship in this book. He knew what he wanted in a relationship, and he went after it in a kind way, in a loving way, not in a stalking way. He went at it in a very loving way and knew what he wanted. And we can't give too much of the book away because you got to go and get this book. The book, Finding Roger. I got my copy here because he autographed it, and
I'm jealous.
and
I am. I gotta
so
admit.
I'm gonna try to get Rick to autograph you one.
Please.
And the thing about it is, it was the travel. I don't even know how to even address the travel without
Just-
giving too much away.
Right. I just okay. Without giving too much away, just know that this man literally went to hell and back for the person that he loves.
And the distinction, though, is that
Right.
neither of them were codependents. That had nothing to do with an unhealthy codependent
Right,
relationship.
right.
They were these two incredible,
Yes.
healthy, talented, brilliant males
Yes.
who had this magnificent love story.
Also, can I just note, I think that, see, this book has got me in a different place because after reading this, I expect more for myself in relationships. There was no point in this book where, these are two busy men and accomplished, established men, and not one time did, it seem like or did it feel like they couldn't balance work and love.
But
They
also
made it
balance
work.
their relationship in terms of what they gave each other. It was absolutely balanced.
Just fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's made me realize that when you loved someone to a degree in which you deserve to be loved and vice versa, that's something that no amount of miles in the world could keep you away
Well,
from
the
it.
distinction with that is that there is a difference between love and obsession. Most people are obsessed
Yeah.
and become crazy and insane and fall in love, which of course then they fall out because it's not really love. I'm a survivor of abuse, so I know what it's like to be in
same.
insane, crazy relationships. It was the gentleness and the kindness
Right.
that got to me from these
Yeah.
two men.
Yeah.
And what my favorite part was of the book? When he died, all the way I'm reading this and I'm thinking, I knew, from the beginning that Roger dies, but I'm thinking, how lucky was Rick to have experienced this love? How many people in this world ever experience this love? I couldn't even really be all that sad with Roger because they had this amazing
Right.
love affair. And then when he was complaining to his therapist that he's not dreaming about Roger, because so many of us think, well, I like to believe that if somebody dies and you dream of them, it means they're visiting you. And he wasn't dreaming of Roger. And then he had that experience I have to just talk about it because I
Please,
got
go right ahead.
chills when I read it. When that piece fell off from his award.
From the award?
Yeah.
Oh,
I still
my
get the chills when I
goodness.
get it.
talking
And
about it
amazing.
right
And
now.
then there was another one about his aunt, the one who was the housekeeper for that woman who died, and what was written on the gravestone
Oh my
was
gosh.
another thing. And that that's why I'm mad about the Long Island Medium, because I love to know that when you die, you don't just disappear.
Right, right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that anybody who loses anyone, your first instinct is, well, the first reaction is really not denial, but it doesn't feel real. And I think that these Roger reports were the amount of people that loved this couple, I'm so envious of the people that they shared their lives with as a couple, because I don't think that his grieving process, Rick's grieving process, would have been the same had he not had all of these people, you know, to talk to and share these reports with, share these photos. The photos are beautiful, all of just from them in the park, from them in their garden. Like these photos, you can see just how well put together this book was and how carefully each word was. You know, it's something about, I think there's something to say about being in love and sharing that love with other people and not feeling like you won't still have all of it at the end of the day.
You know, I tell you, like I said, I'm biased in a way because I got to meet them and spend some really good quality time with them. And I remember one time we were all walking, and it's a phone call in. Why don't we take this call? Would you pick up the headphone there?
This?
And caller, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Well, hello there. Thanks for calling in to the Larry Yates Show. And I'm hoping you call to talk about Finding Roger.
Of course I am. Of course I am. I've got to turn this. I got the speaker going on from the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just needed to say this was a profound book for me. Are you getting echo from the show?
No. We can hear you very clearly.
Okay, good. All right. The show, as everyone is expressing on the show, this was just an amazing, amazing book. And it was about a pure love story. And what struck me most is that the truth of these two men in telling the truth about themselves. And even though I have a different take in that this is a tribute to Roger, given by Rick, it is a tribute of the story that they shared. But beneath it, I feel like I see the hero as the Rick, author, who had the courage to know who he was, to be an authentic man, to claim the truth of who he was, and then go for what he wanted. I think, if I read between the background, and I might be projecting, but I think that there was some reluctance to embrace who he was in Roger, and then Rick helped him come out. And I think when Rick took the steps to come out with his family without any concern, he was just going to work it out and loved his family, that he just gave the example of how love can flourish with two people who are totally and completely honest with each other. But even more than that, it begins with being totally honest with themselves. And so I see this as a beautiful love story, but I see it also as an individual story that begins with the truth of each individual and claiming who they are, regardless of what the world says that they should be.
And what I'm getting from this as well, and I thank you so much, Joy, for calling in. When I look at the challenge, and when I hear you say, and I hear Sydney speak upon being authentic with yourself, and me not being gay, I had kind of programmed to not even think of how tough that could be in coming out and recognizing yourself. I really didn't understand that challenge. That you hear it from the outside looking in. I'm like someone knocking on the window and asking what it's like inside there, and the gay person is in the window saying, "Well, I'm afraid to come out because the big bad wolf out there, or the mean in society, doesn't want me out there." And so I never really, I didn't take. Did that make any sense? And
sure, it does make sense.
And so, and when I met Rick. And I met Rogers, and I feel so lucky that I met these young, wonderful human beings. But when I saw them, I never thought about them having a challenge coming out. I never thought about that. But now I have to even think even further about, wow, what it took not only for them to lock on to each other in love, but what it took for them to accept themselves. Did that
And I
make
don't
sense?
think they ever would have had the love that they had if they didn't do that work about loving themselves.
You know, I really thank you so much, Joy, for calling in, and we got another caller
you.
calling. Is there something else you
Okay.
would like to say before we?
No, that's all I wanted to say. That was the important voice for me.
Thank you so much for calling.
Okay.
Is there another caller? Hello,
Hello?
hello. You're on air with Larry Yates, and I hope you are calling to talk about Finding Roger.
Larry, this is Elaine.
Hey, how you doing, E?
So I am watching this show with tears of joy and appreciation for all of the wonderful things that are being said. Because it was truly an honor to know Roger, and the fact that I'm Rick's aunt is,
Yes.
like so amazing to me to hear this.
Well, you know, E is Rick's aunt, and we've been close for many years, and this is how I met Rick and Roger. And I forever have to, I tell you this all the time, how much I appreciate meeting Roger. And Roger and Rick, they've both been so kind to me, and they've never asked anything of me. And Rick didn't ask me to do this show. I wanted to do that in honor of Rick and Roger for how they were so kind to me. And when I met these guys, as accomplished as Sydney, you saw that they were, they are, and Philippia, these was extremely accomplished men. And I've been working in the music industry for many years, as you know, E. And I've been around some of the most famous people on the planet, from sheikhs of Bahrain to whatever. I won't get into calling their names, but I never met people with that was that accomplished and so down to earth. You would have never known that these two men were successful, and the way they treated me, I will forever be grateful for that. And thank you, E, for calling and talking to us about Finding Roger.
Larry, can I just say thank you to Philippa and Cindy? Your words.
Oh, you're so welcome.
So,
it was
so
an
welcome.
honor to read this book.
And I told Rick that he's in a meeting now, but I just texted him and told him he'll have to watch this on YouTube. Thank you.
Thank you.
all
Thank
of
you so much, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Larry, there's the most beautiful part in the
You can take your headphones off now.
There was a beautiful part in the book where they describe how Roger would go to a performance or be in a performance, and he was this amazing, talented, huge, dynamic actor. And he would go around and speak to everybody and make them feel comfortable. And there's a description here about when Rick said this is when he understood what it meant when somebody took the lead.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Which
yes.
was just so beautiful. And there was another quote that I love when you were mentioning how, all these people were writing in about Roger. I loved this about Judi Dench when her son, because he
yes.
was one of the ones who spoke at the memorial. And when he phoned his mother to say that Roger had died and they had dimmed the lights on Broadway, she wrote, and I can just imagine that voice.
I love
of
that
hers.
quote. I'm
Oh
so
my
happy
God,
you're
she
reading
said-
this. This is my
yes,
favorite
she
quote.
said, well, I doubt that when they come back on that they will ever burn as brightly again. I just thought
wow.
that is just so beautiful.
Yes. Oh man.
I before the calls came in, I was about to tell a story that. So I'm with Rick and Roger, and we're walking, and they're walking ahead of me, and I'm walking with E, and I'm watching Rick and Roger from a distance, and just seeing their body language. Just watching the body language of how in tune these two men was with each other, and I watched Roger. Roger had a green thumb. He loves plants. I can't even grow hair out of my face, and I don't even have to use fertilizer for that. And Roger would be walking. And all of a sudden, he just walked to the side just for no reason at all. And here he is over there grabbing a plant or flower or something. It was just such a gentle man that it was just so heartwarming watching this. And I tell you, I had someone told me 5 years ago that I would be doing a show celebrating a gay marriage, a gay relationship. I'd say, well, it's not impossible because I've never been homophobic. I just never understood those relationships. I don't think I would have been, in that place and meeting them and their open arms and actually, because I can sit and just firmly say some of my own growth has been because of them and this book. And this book has meant a lot to me.
There was
for
the
that.
most beautiful gesture that Rick did for Roger when Roger had no family and his mother didn't accept that he was gay and that they'd broken their relationships. Mm. And because of his love for Roger, that he wanted Roger to have a family, he went and he spoke to his mother and asked her to be friends and to kind of come to terms with the fact that he was gay. Had it not been for Roger, I'm not sure Rick would have done that. And then she did embrace both of them and called him her son-in-law, which was just beautiful. Mm-hmm. But that's how deep and profound that his love was for Roger.
Absolutely. I think this book is so essential in anyone that is kind of conflicted with, their preconceptions of what a relationship is supposed to be and what they know in their heart what love is. And I think that after reading this book, I feel so well equipped to for anyone that, feels like love isn't validated if it's not what they feel to be right. I just feel like after reading this book, before reading this book, I honestly can say I had no idea what love really, really meant.
Wow.
Not that what it was, but what it meant. Mm-hmm. And it means it's so much bigger than all of us. It's so much bigger than all of us. And I feel like I actually, hold on. You can say some of your points. I want to find
Okay,
this
you're
quote
absolutely
that
correct. One of the
love.
things that I work with abused women, and I have a program in the Californian Institution for Women, and they're women who are serving life sentences, having murdered their partners, and all victims of abuse. And going through my program, they get time off their sentences, and I can also write letters of recommendation to the parole
beautiful.
board. And coaching and dealing and helping abused women, do you know that often people get so irritated with abused women, or why don't you leave? And they say, well, I love him, or I love her, I can't leave. And one of the first exercises I give these women is I want you to define what love is to you, because nobody ever defines it. And that was one of the first things I did when I healed. I put a line down the center of the page, and on the left-hand side, I actually described what love meant to me. About kindness, sensitivity, the ability to grow together, just all these things, loyalty, trustworthiness. And in the right-hand column, I described the love I was receiving. There wasn't one single word that correlated. So this is so you're absolutely correct. In the love that they describe, nobody really defines what love is. Women spend more time choosing a dress than they do at choosing a man.
Absolutely.
Before we, I think what we're going to do, I want you to hold that, I'll find that. Jarvis, do we have the musical break? We're going to just do a musical break. And this is actually a song that I wrote and produced, and my brother and I are singing it. But I thought the theme of it would match the story of today. happy birthday to you. This is my way of showing my gratitude. Appreciating you. I really love you, girl. Hey, stand up, lady, you're so faithful and true. Appreciating you. The ever tender love and sweet embrace over you. Your priceless love, I know it can't be bought. Please take this token of my love. A diamond gift is straight from the heart. Let's toast this love and forever and ever. This is not a holiday nor an anniversary. This is not happy birthday to you. This is my way of showing my gratitude. Appreciating you. I really love you, girl. Hey, stand up, lady, you're so faithful and true. Appreciating you. The ever tender love and sweet embrace over you. Appreciating you. You were my lover and friend. You were always there through thick and thin. Appreciating you. The ever tender love and sweet embrace over you. Appreciating you. I really love you, girl. Hey, stand up, lady, you're so faithful and true. Appreciating you. The ever tender love and sweet embrace over you. You were my lover and friend. You were always there through thick and thin. Loving, loving, the ever tender love and sweet embrace over you. Always in my heart. I really love you, girl. Hey, stand up, lady, you're so faithful and true. My heart, my soul goes out to tender love and sweet embrace over you. You were my lover and friend. Hey, 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 hey. Appreciating you. My brother and I did that song, and my brother's lead singing, I wrote and produced it. But I just thought that would be appropriate for this story tonight, because this is truly two people that appreciated each other. And the time is going by so fast. I can't believe this. So, for those of you that are maybe not so familiar with Rick's accomplishment, he wrote Peter and the Starcatcher on Broadway that won all kind of Tony Awards and Broadway Awards. And then he wrote Jersey Boys. And then, as I understand, he worked with Clint Eastwood and brought it from Broadway to theater. To the movies. So these are very accomplished young people. And like I said, the time is going by so fast. You got to get this book. And before I forget, anybody that purchased this book, a part of the proceeds are going to go to the Roger Rees Foundation. The Roger Rees Foundation for those that purchased the book. And then there's the Artist Foundation. So especially the Roger Rees Foundation. So those of you that purchased the book, please go out and purchase the book because it's a good cause, and give the book to someone. Give it to a friend. Give it to a relative, because with the political climate out here that we have so many people that is trying to stop gay and lesbian from marrying, to having healthy relationships and stuff. This book right here, I really can be like an anthem of what a relationship is, a love relationship is, not a gay, a lesbian relationship, but this is what a relationship can be. Read this book anytime you have a question about, is there love out there? And we all question that sometimes. Sydney, you found a portion that you wanted to read there.
There is a part of the book where there are many photos in this book of Rick and Roger that are just beautiful throughout Roger's life and them together. And there's one particular photo of Roger overlooking, I believe, the sunrise. Or no, it's the sunset. They like to say it at sunset, but it's a Robert Frost poem, which is an iconic poem and one of my favorites, but I want to read it. Nature's first green is gold, her heart is hue to hold. Her early leaf's a flower, but only so an hour. The leaf subsides to leaf, so Eden sank to grief. So dawn goes down to day, nothing gold can stay. And I wanted to read that because I believe that this love was so... It almost seemed like it was perfect. It almost seemed like they were puzzle pieces.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be.
It seemed like there were so many things that could have happened.
Yes.
And changed the course of their entire lives.
But it was a love meant to be. The time is going by so fast, so I'm sorry, sweetie. I have to cut it out. Felipe, you wanted to read something that
Yes, one of the quotes in the book that Rick mentioned was, I don't think writers are sacred, but words are. They deserve respect. If you can get the right words in the right order, you can nudge the world a little. You can make the world a better place, which Tom Stoppard said. And for me, their love story made the world a better place.
You got to get the book, Finding Roger.
Please
Just
do.
before we go, give us just quick words of wisdom as we leave about this love, about love, whatever you decide.
I think people need to raise the bar on what they expect love to be.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And you, young ladies, Cindy, give us a words of wisdom before we go.
I think it is time for people in this world to come to their own conclusion as to what love means to them, because we live in a world where there's so many conditioning, and it's so deeply embedded in our culture to be conditioned to believe something. I think it's important for you to find what love means to you.
Thank you so much. As we go, this story, this show today, a lot of people that know I was doing a show said, well, you're going to do a show about Rick and Roger, Finding Roger, and that was very true. But a lot of this was about me. This show was about my own growth and my own path to learning more and more how to be a better person, how to see love no matter what direction it comes from. And as I leave the show today, as we move forward in our life, on our journey, look deep into self, fix self, and not go out and fix the world. And you'll find fixing yourself, you will be participating in healing the world as we know it. Finding Roger by Rick Ellis. Please get this book, Amazon.com. Once again, remember, a nation can rise no higher than it elevates its woman, and it's love, true love in the world. This has been good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Online dating. I met this girl online. Online dating. I met this girl online. Clicked and fell.